Gets a little bit tricky again. FBML actually has some commands inside it that push to profiles. So if you want to create a nice profile image, like the Gillette one you saw there of the lady prancing on the beach, you need to push some FBML. So at some point in your application development, you're actually going to hit FBML, even if you're using the iframe kind of system. The next big step is the API itself. So this is a REST API, which basically means it's HTTP calls, libraries for everything. Go back to here. Let me see. You've got .NET, VB script, Emacs Lisp, that's a fairly recent one, normal Lisp, Ruby on Rails, Windows mobiles. There's pretty much, if you're not developing in one of those languages, you are obviously some sort of crazy boffin and you'd probably prefer to write your own anyway. The REST API makes things pretty nice. You can, here's the API test console. So I can actually grab some fields from, not get info, user get info. Where's that gone? There it is. So this is the kind of thing you do inside your application. You make a call using the library and language of your choice, comes back in XML format, and this is straight from the profile properties. Essentially all of that data is exposed, and you can see there's a heap of different methods. Not all of them are read. Anything that you do that is pushing to the feed or sending notifications, you do need to use the API to do. Yeah. So basically that's the Whirlwind high-level tour. You have your Facebook applications that you can talk to. There are some issues I've seen. They're very early stages. They don't take Microsoft's let's not break any existing apps. It's still sometimes a moving target, and sometimes it moves quite fast. They've done things like limit the number of photos that you can store for particular applications, and suddenly you get caught out where before you could store 10,000, now it's 50 per album and things like that. So yeah, that's about it. Questions?
Thank you, Toby. We'll take a few questions before we go to our break. If we could make those short questions, because we will open up this forum this afternoon.
Hi, my name is Art from LinkMe. The question, because you guys have already mentioned that Facebook can change their things and it can actually break whatever you were doing. Is there any automated testing for your applications?
Testing.
Thanks.
The really hard part at the moment of doing this stuff is testing. It's really, really painful because I don't know if any of you have ever developed enterprise Java applications, but it's essentially a sort of submit to the server, run through Facebook, and see if the code worked kind of setup. So it's all back to the future. I use just some browser-based testing tool called Selenium, which automates through Firefox. But other than that, it can be quite painful to develop. And there's some movements in the open source world to help that out in terms of creating tunneling servers and things like that will let you develop a local application but have Facebook pull the content from that. Yeah, it's a bit painful. If you have a static IP, it's a little bit friendlier. But otherwise, I've been in the case of submitting stuff to a server, hitting refresh in Facebook, and doing it all over again. So yeah, quite a painful experience.
KK from Attitude. I got a comment and a question. The
Yeah.
comment is that I think it's good that Facebook has got a structured approach. Otherwise, you end up turning your Facebook into a porno site, like
Yeah.
MySpace has done to some extent. I think that's a good thing, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And the question is, when you develop the Facebook application, do you need to serve FBML back to the Facebook server, or how does it work?
Yeah, basically Facebook pulls request pages off your server that should be in FBML. It can wrap them in an iframe, but you do lose out on some of the nice features that are provided as FBML. And also, there seems to be a bit of a, I'm not sure if stigma is the right word, but if your application doesn't look like part of the Facebook way of doing things, it seems to have a negative effect on the way that users perceive it. Because users who like Facebook like it because it's not MySpace, or that's one of the things that they like. So there seems to be a real demographic divide there.
Can you go from, let's say I send an email to somebody and a link to the application, and if they're not already on Facebook, can they go into the Facebook into your application?
Yeah, things end up just as a URL. So you can direct people to pages inside applications. Facebook will log them in first or pass their credentials to you, and you can do things like that. There are boundaries about the way that you can interact with things like the messaging system. Facebook protects from spamming quite diligently. But yeah, there are ways to interact with quite complex systems.